Hello family! The opening scene of our anime features a guy on a boat in what appears to be a deserted forest. That is, until the light comes on and a vending machine greets him. The guy then hosts into what appears to be an abandoned building with hanging undead. It appears to be partially abandoned. It doesn't take much to frighten them away here, considering that there are a ton of other monsters roasting marshmallows around a campfire. He comes into a monster by the name of Malik, who correctly assumed a chainsaw would make a better sword. He was mistaken. The name of our unknown hero is revealed to be Colin. As Malik passes away, there suddenly arises an enormous flash of light. Then, we proceed toward what appears to be New York City. It has been better seen. We were introduced by a guitar riff. We meet the adversary with the good guitar, who must be our major villain, yet not flawless. In this planet, talking rats with the ability to age into ancient men also exist. A few unwelcoming guards in their robots intercept Colin as he crosses a bridge. Colin seems to be both a white Ted guitarist and a bounty hunter. This approves of that. He sends a convoy of soldiers with Colin on board. We learn that the only thing keeping people alive is the vaccine after a devastating virus killed nearly 80% of the population. That certainly is some solid foresight for today. Naturally, Colin erupts when he first meets Joe, his new sidekick, a little child. He is directed to a seedy tavern where Dahlia is first introduced to us. There will almost certainly be a love interest in this film. We quickly rewind to a time when Colin first met Dahlia-like woman named Moya in what appears to be the Roman Empire. After it fell, we discovered that Colin had once been a valiant and admired commander. He also professes his love for the new woman at this time. It's not all sunshine and rainbows, though. A huge army under the command of Marcus Octavius will destroy Colin and his group. They take a drink, but surprise, surprise, the alcohol is spiked and he passes out Moya before going to Marcus Octavius, who resembles our favorite guitarist in this place. Moya offers to join Marcus in bed, especially if doing so means defending her people from his armies. She seizes the chance to stab Marcus, who collapses to the ground bleeding. The only genuine surprise in this situation is how he failed to anticipate that particular turn of events. Marcus, however, survives the attempt to grab Moya as she flees the camp. Moya is then bound and made to witness Octavius' assault on her people, just in time to see his guys being slaughtered. Colin wakes up. He is able to pick up a sword once a week, but he isn't in any form, and his army is pinned beneath a collapsing building. Trapping him isn't doing any better, and Colin, they end themselves in ruin. Despite all, he makes it through and awakens to the distant ruins of his people. At the top, the warrior is still visible, his people's dead bodies. Perhaps hoping she is still alive, he goes to her. She is barely holding on, but Colin promises not to get revenge. He agrees grudgingly, just before Moya passes away in his arms. The twist in this story is that Colin vows to exact retribution. Colin is seen again in the bar. The scene clearly draws comparisons between Colin and Dahlia. He pursues Dahlia to shelter inside a Reuben church as the cops look for him. Then Dahlia enlists Colin to assist in our effort to save the city. Then, we witness some government representatives discussing furthering their influence over a region under their jurisdiction. We discover that Octavius is the leader and that he's pressuring his scientists to create some lethal weapons. The city is searched by cops. They arrive at a rebel base via a covert entrance as Colin hides in a Reuben tunnel. It appears to be a respectable location. The rat soup is absent. We discovered that only those residing in the tower are given the vaccine. Everyone else is left to fend for themselves. Dahlia appears to be taking Colin to a house so he can pay for them to have sex. Colin declines her since he is aware of the restraints. Colin leaves Dahlia's house because she asks him to assist her in stealing vaccines. Colin learns that Marcus has been in charge of the when we get up with them above ground. When Colin storms a Roman station to find Marcus once more in the past, he kills a guardian and dons his uniform before locating the man. Colin then sneaks close to Marcus' tent just in time to avoid Marcus' onset of a seizure. He ultimately gathers himself back together and assaults Mark, but he is greatly outnumbered and is overpowered. The two charge at each other in the middle of a field after Marcus challenges him to a fair fight. Despite his best efforts, Marcus severely hurt him before pursuing him. In stone, Colin gives way. Marcus stops trying to help him. After his injuries have healed, he awakens to a spirit named Agon who informs him that he is immortal. Kunlin dismisses him, but a lightning bolt strikes him to demonstrate that he is immortal but not invincible. Then they continue to converse, and she informs him that while the Romans are long dead, Marcus is still alive and well, who Colin is significantly weaker than. He is informed by Agon that amoral beings gain strength by beheading other immortals and absorbing their vitality in a process known as a quickening. The most significant, however, is currently fruitful. Ouch. We move back to the present day with Colin still seeking retribution. He now has no qualms about assisting Dahlia in breaking into the tower. The two enter the building through a covert entry. They are also widely dispersed. They meet Joe, who insists on going with them. As soon as Joe's alarm goes off, what can only be described as a massive demon crocodile awakens. The monster is easily dispatched by Colin, who also manages to save Danny's life. Colin rushes in rather than waiting to sneak in when the three run into a patrol by a split second. The guards are quickly defeated by him. Before the triple storm entered the borrow tree, it appeared to be a tree. The head scientist is acting more than a little skeptical, but the Daya is holding them all at gunpoint and forcing them to give her the vaccine they're working on. They have been developing the ideal virus, one against which there is no vaccine. It appears that these individuals were responsible for the epidemic, and once Dahlia has knocked out Marcus and the ominous Colin, she sends the other two to confront him once more. He travels to him in what must be the largest elevator in the world. In a previous scene, Colin, instead of assisting a woman and her child, charged into what appeared to be a coliseum. He challenges him once more after sensing Octavius. Octavia makes a protracted statement before the two start fighting. Colin is once more no match for him. Right, soldiers charge as he is going to be decapitated. Marcus is pushed back as we switch to another battleground, then another. Every time Colin looks for Marcus in an effort to get retribution. Every time he fails. Every time he creates a new life for himself before taking his own life in retaliation. He ultimately awakens and tries to start over. Just once, men who attempted to kill him after seeing him dead confront him. Only their leader, who stands up for him, allows him to escape. He gets his nickname Highlander from this, as he recreates his entire existence. He attempted to exact retribution for a millennium. Marcus is confronted by him in what appears to be Japan. He survives once more because this time, he was no match for him, and a building falls between them. Even in World War I, we see him leaping onto Marcus' plane just before it explodes. He regains consciousness in a church, on hallowed ground, away from Marcus. Marcus even begins to question whether Colin has accomplished anything in the last 2,000 years. Colin is advised by Marcus to find another positive aspect of himself as a psychopath in his life. Once more cutting to the present, Dahlia and Joe are still attempting to flee. Dahlia succeeds in making a safe escape jump. Marcus easily avoids all of Colin's attacks before being taunted and shoved back when Colin eventually meets him again. They continue to fight before Marcus tosses Colin out the window and stabs him with his sword. Marcus then throws Colin off the top after the two have a duel on a tower's side. He lands just in front of Joe and Dahlia follows Joe out the door with a shot. SVE's his corpse. Colin reanimates as she prepares to leave, and Dahlia takes his bloody body out of the tower while he explains his motivation for being here and his initial desire to kill Marcus. Some guards, thankfully with the worst aim I've ever seen, nearly stop the two. Before leaving, Dahlia detonates a grenade in the tunnel. She falls to the ground and thinks about how much Colin has been through. We watch Colin conversing with Agon in his head, as Agon discusses Moya's reincarnations throughout time. He stands at her grave, but has been too blind to recognize it. Currently, Dahlia is holding her soul. Colin awakens underneath their cover, his wounds recovered. His recovery has everyone in awe, but it also offers them hope that even the seemingly impossible is attainable. Everyone joins together to wage battle on their oppressors. Colin shouldn't fight, according to Dahlia, but he grabs a sword. Anyway, we return to Marcus, who discovers that the most recent virus is now faulty. He dispatches his troops to put down the rebels. As Colin looks for Dahlia, we see her in her room. He expresses gratitude for all that she done for him, and Dahlia reconsiders her resolve to engage in combat despite her mortal state. While Dahlia sleeps, the couple makes love, and Colin locks a room with the intention of keeping us safe. The rebels observe while the government army patrols the street. Colin claims that killing Marcus is the only way to prevail. The others must buy time. Joe shows him a different tower entrance that is undiscovered. The conflict began when the rebels' opening fire went wide. When Dahlia awakens, she discovers that her room is locked. She finally succeeds in getting through. Colin makes an attempt to enter the tower. He needs to pass through a small force once more, but he succeeds overall with some cunning, and he would have, prior to being discovered by Marcus' assistant in a helicopter. Marcus utilizes the explosion to get away by running. The assistant pursues him, but Dahlia manages to throw her helicopter into the air as Colin goes to fight Marcus, the rebel who missed before finally finding managers to strike the slow. She dies from a hail of bullets as Dahlia buys time for her. The two declare their love as Colin prepares to fight Marcus, ever a moving tank. Numerous rocket launches all have the top tower as their target. Colin and Marcus argue with one another. If Colin cannot stop Marcus, Marcus says he will use the virus to murder everyone in 2 minutes. Colin loses the fight because he is outmatched. Unexpectedly, as the clock runs out, Colin is unable to neutralize the virus in time. Donna is impaled by the 8 even as Marcus entails him, who has been able to return. The infection begins to claim the lives of every rebel. Before passing away, Donette jams a grenade into her mouth, killing both of them. When Colin learns she has passed away, he finds one more push to get to his feet. Colin ultimately gets Marcus on the back foot during the duel, at which point he snaps his sword and beheads him, sending shockwaves that demolish the tower, and the virus is also successfully eliminated by the quickening, saving the rebels, bringing lights, and lighting a candle for Dahlia before departing once more. Then the credits start to roll. This concludes our recap of the anime. Tell us in the comments how this anime synopsis was for you. I'll see you in the upcoming anime recap.